special committee, Special Parliamentary Committee on Elections is again in session. This morning we will be speaking to our last two provinces, and having said that, we will be summoning a few provinces to Port Moresby to give evidence. But in any case, these are our last two in this organized session. We have the Autonomous Region of Bougainville and Manus Province. Let me remind the participants that this is a properly constituted parliamentary hearing, which means you're protected by the privileges of Parliament. So please feel free. We are not a court of justice, so we won't be able to decide in anyone's favor if someone is wrong. There are proper avenues for that. We are a parliamentary committee. We work on behalf of the Parliament and the people of Papua New Guinea, and our job is to understand what has gone wrong in the last election and previous ones, and to figure out how we can fix the processes going forward so we can preserve our democracy, so all our people can participate meaningfully in future elections. With that, I understand you've all been observing the format, so I will waste no further time. We'll probably keep, or we'll start with Arab perhaps, because there's only one of you, and then we'll come to Manus afterwards and perhaps spend a bit of time there. Mr. Justin Pantumari, you are the election manager for Arab. All right, please provide us your report. If you can press the green button and pull the microphone towards you, sir.
As the Provincial Returning Officer for the 2022 National General Elections in Arab, it is my pleasure to be part of this very special meeting, which is the Special Parliamentary Committee on the General Elections hosted by the National Government. I would like to acknowledge the Chairman, Honorable Allan and his team members. I will be giving an overview on the 2022 National General Elections conducted in the Autonomous Region of Bougainville with challenges faced and recommendations. As for some of the stakeholders within the vicinity of this meeting arena, they need to know the functions of the Electoral Commission and the mission and the vision. Okay, the prime function of the Electoral Commission. It is the prime function of the Electoral Commission to organize and conduct all elections for the Parliament and the legislative arms of the local level governments. Our vision, to be a vibrant, leading and credible Electoral Commission that has the ability to innovate and change to better deliver transparent, free, fair, safe and inclusive elections. Our mission, to plan and conduct free, fair, transparent and democratic elections by providing quality electoral services in accordance with the relevant laws and by providing greater voter education to enhance public and stakeholder participation and confidence in the electoral process. Overview of the Autonomous Region of Bougainville, provincial level government context. Arab consists of 3 open electorates: South Bougainville, Central Bougainville, North Bougainville, and the regional seat. Arab consists of 13 LLGs and 442 wards. Population approximately at 400,000. Security operations during the election didn't experience much election violence, and entire election operations was quiet and minimum normalcy. 2022 National Election Service providers outstanding for polling vehicles, boats for the 3 electorates outstanding, and Sana portion 1.3 million yet to be paid. Other payments for the service providers for Arab for the 2022 general elections were paid last year, December 2022. Provincial Election Administration Planning Budget, 2022 National Election Budget request was 8.7 million, but only 1 million was allocated to PNGC Puka to conduct the general election. No assistant funding from the Election Steering Committee during the elections. Issues encounter: Bougainville land geography settings are huge compared to other NGI provinces. With the budget cut, it was a big challenge to coordinate the 128 polling teams during the polling with logistics and other administration, but we managed to coordinate the multiple days of polling. Electoral roll, PNGC as a MOU with OBEC, Office of the Bougainville Electoral Commissioner. Electoral Commissioner Mr. George Manu. And we use its base role to do the update enrollment. Data entry was done in the provincial level, and updated roll sent to HQ, approved by the Electoral Commissioner, Mr. Samon Sinai, as a certified roll to be used during polling. Total eligible voters for the region stands at 216,000 on the electoral roll. Elections operations, nomination process. 2022 National Election Nomination Day in Narok was peacefully conducted, and candidates and supporters maintained peace in the 3 regions' electorates. Issues encounter, all Gazzelle returning officers or assistant returning officers must be released by the Electoral Commissioner before the issue of writ for planning and administrative purposes within the province. A total of 55 candidates in Narok contested during the 2022 National General Election. Out of the 55 candidates, 4 female candidates nominated. Issues encountered, candidates endorsed by political parties need to provide all necessary documents on timely manner in order for the provincial returning officer to accept issue a nomination. Example, endorsement letter for the party leader, secretary of the political party. Campaign period, candidates and supporters did perform very well in maintaining orderly manner in conduct during campaigning. Candidates' campaign posters were respected by other candidates by not vandalism it and promote respect in the region. Polling period, Arab went for multiple days polling during the 2022 general elections, 5 days of polling. Polling went well, but few issues that came up, names were not on the roll. Counting period for Arab for the 3 open electorates as well as the regional seat were well managed, and the writs were returned on the 28th July 2022 for the 2 electorates and the regional seat, except North Bougainville open after late William Nakin passed on. North Bougainville open electorate will go for by-election as soon as national government release funding. Issues encounter, issues by candidates and other scrutinies were well managed by returning officers, and electoral process were understood well till declaration were made. Recommendation for PNG Electoral Commission into the future, based on the challenges issues faced listed are some of the recommendations listed below. 1. Funding for the electoral roll update must be seen as an ongoing activity till issue of writ. Number 2, PNGC must adopt the all village recorder system by allowing ward members committee to do update daily, and PNGC will have to retrieve the data to match onto the base roll for the district, LLG, and ward for the province. This will assist to minimize duplicates of names and other issues on the roll. Number 3, funding for the general election must be given on timely manner before the issue of writs in order to manage well the election cycle, as well the service providers who are to engage to provide services to PNGC in the province. Funding must be released to the province. Number 4, appointment and gazette of returning officers and assistant returning officers must be released by the Electoral Commissioner before the issue of writ for planning and administration purposes in the province. Number 5, budget must be given according to the request budget submission and must be sent to the Provincial Treasury Office managed at the provincial level by the election manager and overseen by the Provincial Election Steering Committee for acquittal purposes. This will help to manage the elections without any outstandings that may arise. Number 6, electoral roll. Electoral roll as such must be seen as the main objective of the PNG Electoral Commission and must be funded by the government and must be seen as an ongoing activity for the next 4 years till issue of writ for another general elections. Number 7, enrollment by law is compulsory. Number 8, voting is not compulsory. Therefore, I suggest if the organic law can be amended so all voters must vote in the LLG, ward and district level. I suggest if there must be a penalty fee of 20 kina for the voter whose name on the electoral roll but did not take part during voting. On the other end, the voter process justifies voter turnout. Conclusion, on behalf of my Bougainville Regional Election Steering Committee, especially my Chairman, Chief Secretary to the ABG Government, Mr. Cedric Imata, Deputy Chairman and OPEC Commissioner, Mr. George Manu, I am happy to present to this committee issues encountered during elections and recommendations that can be approved by the national government to assist and fund the PNG Electoral Commission to better manage its election cycle in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pantomari. During the course of the elections, did you or your returning officers encounter any incidents of disaffection from the candidates, their scrutineers or supporters in Bougainville?
In Autonomous Region of Bougainville, the election fever there is not the same as other provinces. Because there we have two electoral commission there, the Papua New Guinea Electoral Commission, which I'm managing it, and the Office of the Bougainville Electoral Commissioner. Okay, they normally have their by-elections for the constituencies, and so the election is an ongoing activity there, and the scrutineers there, the people there, they understood well the process. So, got this kind of issues come up long the election, yeah.
Okay, well, since you are being streamed live, it would be, I think it's an important thing that all Papua New Guineans need to learn from Bougainville, given the, the crisis that we had for 2 decades. And of course, we know there are still perhaps weapons on the island. There may still be disaffected people there, but how is it with all of that and with that history of serious violence in the autonomous region of Bougainville that your people are able to conduct such a peaceful election compared to other parts of the country that perhaps have not had, well, none of us have had the experience that Bougainville has had. What would you say to us in terms of learning and doing better, the other Papua New Guinean groups that are listening to this hearing?
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. Okay, Autonomous Region of Bougainville is a bit challenging. It's a very challenging region, province to work and to manage election. But my office and George Manu's office, we have an MOU in place, and we normally assist each other in working and conducting elections. So the main thing is communication. Communication, we communicate with the service providers, we talk to them well, and they understood, and whatever election activities that arises, they respect the process. They respect the process.
Thank you. I have no questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pantomari, for coming and representing region of Bougainville. Would you think that the preparations leading up to the referendum in 2019, particularly in reference to the common role, because in the rest of the country, all presenters have said that the common role was not prepared on time, funds were not provided, and many people missed out voting. That was the chief complaint. For Bougainville, with regards to the common role, what impact did the preparation of the common role from the referendum, because I was Minister for Bougainville Affairs during that time, and the appointment of a separate organ to support the OBEC was something that I have valued, and therefore complimenting the local electoral commission on the ground. And it was good to hear that you had an agreement with the Office of Bougainville Electoral Commission. But I think the question is the timeliness and the proper planning of preparing the common role throughout the country. So I want to hear your comment on when you were updating the common role and you had an agreement with the Office of Bougainville Electoral Commission, you were already well prepared in terms of the common role was concerned. Would that be right?
Yeah, in regards to the planning and the time frame, the timeline of the enrollment update and data entry, which is the main agenda for the Electoral Commission of Papua New Guinea, I've seen that as for me, I will not hit the target. And also by reading the reports on the 2017 national elections, they used, I wasn't there during 2017 national elections, but through the reports I've read, they used the role for PNGC. So what I did, I request through my boss, Electoral Commissioner, if he could give me an approval so I can ask Mr. George Manu, Electoral Commissioner OPEC, so we can use their base role to update it. So what we did, because they have the base role there, the base Autonomous Region of Bougainville electoral roll through the Office of the Bougainville Commissioner OPEC, I can say that it's 80% accurate. Yeah, because they normally have their constituencies by elections there. Yeah, so what I did, I asked them and we just used that base roll and we did the update.
So the lesson is basically a continuous work on upgrading the common roll,
Yes.
not just 1 month, 2 months before the general election. That's a
Correct.
lesson that the country must learn.
Correct.
And provincial governments must take responsibility, Electoral Commission must partner. That's a lesson that Bougainville is showing now.
Yes, correct. That's why on one of my recommendations, I mentioned that the electoral roll must be an ongoing activity. It must be updated till the issue of writ. So, like for example, before the issue of writ, let's say 2 months or 3 months prior to the issue of writ, then we should have the cleansing, the roll display. So you may go display long word. Now you may check him. Now people will come check him name long all. And then we did the returning officer is appointed to do the common roll update, can do the alteration. And then from there, you go back in, do the final data entry, and that roll must be certified by the Electoral Commission of Papua New Guinea to be printed and used to report it. Yeah.
On your request of 8.7 million, but you told us that you were only given 1 million, and then you say that you actually managed. How did you do that?
Oh, well, it was a very big challenge.
What was the reason for Electoral Commission saying, sorry, we can't give you your request, but we only can give you 1/12 of your request, which is 1 million?
Yeah, this, on my report, I've stated that in NGI, in the 4 provinces in NGI, autonomous region, with the number of wards, the geographical setting is bigger than the other 4 provinces. So by looking at the budget, Arab must be seen as a bigger province, so it must be given a budget, the timely budget. So you can see I have 120 polling teams. So to manage the teams, we have captured everything on the budget. But when they give that 1 million, that's why you can see I have a 1.2 million outstanding to pay. These are the polling vehicles only. You know, Autonomous Region of Bougainville is a maritime province too. So we have atolls there and cartwrights, and these are some of the challenges that I've faced, but we manage.
You manage.
Yeah.
But did you go to the ABG to ask for their support as well, like other electoral managers? Through their provincial election steering committee, they managed to request a provincial government, and that they came to help. Did you do that?
Yes, Deputy Chairman, I did, because I have my election steering committee, and my chairman is the chief secretary of the ABG government. I did request, but funding was was not enough to assist there.
So you just had to do with what you had?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Including your security forces also supported out of that, or they had their own funding?
No, security forces under Mr. Tokura also is my member of the election steering committee. They did their own budget. I advised them to do their own budget and send it through to their HQ. So they were funded. Yeah, they were funded through their HQ.
So they were okay?
Yeah, they were okay.
Security issues. You did say that things were done peacefully. Tell us why in Bougainville, as the chairman was saying, despite many of the issues that we know of, why is it that your security issues was not a concern so far as you have reported, and what can other provinces learn from Bougainville?
One of the planning tool that we did was the awareness. Yeah, we went on to the NBC local radio station, Sun Come Up. We did the awareness there, and also we engaged other stakeholders to do the awareness. And also I've advised my 3 returning officers, North, South, Central, to do some little bit of awareness there for the people to take ownership of the election. Yeah, they need to take ownership. So these are some of the strategies that we used. But in overall, there is no such report as ballot box was hijacked or other irregularities in elections, illegal behavior. So this no, they understood the process because of the continuous cycle of their elections, by-elections for their constituencies. For the national elections, they are aware that it's after 5 years' time. So,
very good. What was the voter turnout percentage of registered voters? Because during the referendum, there was close to 80% turnout. Compared to 2022, what was the turnout?
For 22 general elections, because we update the base roll for OBEC, the estimated base roll stands at 216,000. So I can say that.
How many voted?
76%.
Close to 70, close to 80%.
Yeah, close to 80%.
So that's very good. I mean, yesterday, Eastern Britain, they said they only had 57, 60% turn up to vote. Yeah, so people are willing to turn up and vote.
Yeah.
But in one of your recommendations, I read that we should penalize those who enroll and who never vote with 20 kina fine. Elaborate on that so the country can hear.
Yes, in terms of enrollment is by law, is compulsory, and by voting, also I got name long roll. When polling, time of polling, na yumi talks away go. Sampla only go busy lo hunting and gardening and fishing. So all you know sa border long, lo come na take part long vote. Na time government form now, only complain long all basic services in Richimola. So this type of people, they need to be. We need to come up with some penalty for them to.
But they will complain and say, when we turn up, we were not there because only one day voting and they didn't give us enough time to vote.
Yeah, well, that's the, for voting, I recommend not one day, but I recommend multiple days of voting. It's 5 days.
You had 5 days.
Yeah.
My last question, Mr. Pantomari, is you had 55 candidates.
Yes.
Out of that 55, you advised that you had 4 women candidates, but none of them won.
Yes.
I asked the same question yesterday to Eastern Britain. Yours is a matrilineal society.
Correct.
Why na you plan Bougainville, no sabe Luxaville or Merina, Baltimore? Why?
Yeah, that like what I always say, yeah, I do my part, you do your part. Yeah. So I cannot justify more on that.
Would you offer any solutions how we can help women to beat men in the election process? Or we have created an election system that disadvantages our mothers and our daughters and our sisters? Should we change? What's your view?
Yeah, we need to respect our women folks in the country. Mothers are the backbone of this country. So my thoughts only, if the government can see to this and create maybe four seats in the parliament.
Well, you've done it in Bougainville.
Why not? Why not?
Why not throughout the
our
country?
national government, we can create 4+ seats, and that seat will be budgeted for, and let the women folk contest the election, and they can enter the parliament.
Thank you.
Mr. Pantamari, the same thing on, you said something about penalizing people who don't vote with 20 kina. And there are some instances where people who deliberately do not want to get themselves registered on the common roll, or to turn up on the polling day, then they start complaining about them not, then they wanted to vote. So do you think similar kind of penalties should be, what do you think we should do to in such situations, where they deliberately do not want their names to be registered, but when polling time comes around, they force themselves to vote, to actually vote. And these are some of the people where they cause a lot of unnecessary delays when it comes to counting and all of those things.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, sir. That's a common issue, sir. This is one of the common issues during polling, where some of them, like for example, when we're in the office, there's some people that are trying to come and check the names on the roll. They normally come to the office, but there's some that during polling they don't have their names on the roll, but they just want to, try to use other people's names. So this is not correct, because by law this is not correct. But yeah, well, I think we'll try to see it. But what I'm interested is the name on the roll. Yeah. If that voter, his name is on the roll, na emi sabol same time the polling na emi no been come turn up, it must be a sort of like a penalty. Yeah, a penalty must be given to him. By that time, I believe that by that time, our country by me got finished display NID system is strong, so you can say. But now we are just we're heading there, but not really that data is still very effective yet. But maybe in future, I think. But it's like a system that you can come up also.
Thank you, Mr. Pantamari, and let me, on behalf of the committee, acknowledge the conduct of the people of the autonomous region of Bougainville in the previous election, and to commend you for behaving in a way that is exemplary and is something that perhaps other Papua New Guineans can learn from. But just on your comment to do with fining people who don't vote, I believe in the region in Australia, if you do not vote, you are charged a fine of about $500. So there are those jurisdictions that employ that kind of incentive. I think in many democratic countries, the turnout is quite low in elections, and that's something that we are interested in, because in Papua New Guinea, most people tend to want to vote, but then there are a few that perhaps do not. So let me thank you for that. And we now we move to Manus Province. I will ask the chairman of the Provincial Education Election Steering Committee. Sorry, when you're a governor, you deal with these things all the time, and this law something E stands for education, so forgive me for that. Mr. Poya Ponau, lo give him brief blipla, and you can bring your team in, or you want to defer to someone else? Oh, Chairman Lapside. Okay. All right, please. Mr. Okanang Nungu, the acting provincial administrator, Manus.
Thank you. Morning, Luyumi Olkadawa listening, and Chairman, thank you, you and your team, Deputy Chairman and the member. We are humbled today because we never found any time like that. The election has been a problem all through, and there was never a time where a high delegate team like you and your team to come and listen to people. So let me thank you, and may perhaps bring the greetings from Manus Island to your team. Thank you. Manus is one district, one province, and we have 11 LLGs and 131 wards. The furthest highland is almost 2 days by boat, reaching near to Wewak and Isibik. Many people think that it's a small province and things are easy, but it is one of the biggest province in the country, given the fact that we have seas that extend to almost 270,000 miles, nautical miles. Having said that, the general election in 2022 was challenging. Unlike the ones that we used like conducting the first elections, this was a difficult one. But let me start with the support that we got from the provincial government and also from the provincial administration. All the public servants at that time, I was the provincial administrator then, so I released all of them to support the provincial election. And the officer beside me was the returning officer. Terry was the officer we released to go and support the election. So at this moment, all of us here are representing the administration and the government, and there's no electoral commission team with us. So, and we start with the a submission that went to PEC asking if they could give us some money. So they agreed to, on the April 7, they released almost 800,000 to use in the 2022 general election. Most of this money was used for support with the security cost. The police, unfortunately, they are not here, but we had no support from Department of Police. If there were any, probably in terms of the funding that went through accommodation, IS, and probably the allowances paid. But unfortunately, there's no report. PSC, I'm the chairman, and the deputy chairman is on my left, right, and we provided a general visibility for all the elections in Manus in 2020. We were a great partner with the National Electoral Commission. They had only one election manager who was just went in and took over from the earlier one. So we thought that he cannot run the election because of his being new to the province. So the provincial election steering committee took full control of the election. We started with meeting once every week and then even every day before the election started. So with the common order update, we actually had to meet with them. I had traveled twice to the Electoral Commission to find if I could get Form 11 and all this. So we started, starting from the earlier part of it, we released our officer to go and help them so that she was, because she was used to running elections, she has run several elections, so we asked her to be released, and then she went and attached with them. We actually visited polling sites during the polling as election steering committees. And we sent other teams to other parts of the wards, and we made sure that if there was any questions, we tried to answer. Unfortunately, there's one thing we found that it was difficult for us was the team has questioned us what's the legal basis of existence of Provincial Election Steering Committee. How does Election Steering Committee exist to support, because most of the electoral teams were gazetted and they were legally at the authority to run the election. How does the Provincial Election Steering Committee relates to Electoral Commission? We couldn't find any answers to it because there was no provisions of law. We only administrative arrangements that because the provincial administrator is the chairman, makes it easy for the officers to be respecting him. Otherwise, we didn't thought that there was any legal basis of our existence in the running the election. And it also, like what functions we carried out, probably had no basis of law for us as a provincial steering committee.
Can I intervene?
Thank you.
I find this, and some other provinces have raised the same issue.
Okay.
It's quite surprising that in government you will find that people want to protect their turf by requiring a certain position in law that gives you the opportunity to do the right thing. So I find that quite surprising because, you know, my background is private sector. We don't need rules, laws, and regulations to guide our conduct. It's all by, I guess, by consensus and agreement. Yes. and proper practice. So this like an passing blow, okay, me got Gazette, so who are you now? I mean, where does that stem from? Is it just public servants? You know, I find that sometimes when public servants have a little bit of power, or, you know, Papua New Guineans generally, you may get little power, you may say, feel powerful now, you may like exercise him this power, and we exercise it to the detriment of others. And I'm surprised that in Manus and Yuplai, you got this like in similar situation where certain people are questioning. Because Mibla long ECP, Provincial Election Steering Committee, one can also Yupla. It's a way bigger province, maybe 20 times the size of Manus. But no got money questioning legitimacy belong. Provincial Election Steering Committee, all got the money, one bell na, he walk one time na, try to find him some outcome. So, you know, is this just certain public servants who are misbehaving because they're trying to be perhaps normally, you know, if they're insubordinate to you, then you can discipline them. But now that you give him all one black gazette, now only got right long to become insubordinate. I mean, how is this? And is this the same people like in previous elections also behave one kind? Or I'm just trying to understand here because it's been raised a couple of times, and I've decided to ask that question of you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. We actually like scrutinize all the teams who are brought in. You're bringing families or one dogs, or you are going to a place where you know that there'll be a problem. We do not want this person to come in. We want you to remove him. Because that made it possible, like such questions that they raised. What authority do you have to ask me to remove this person or this one? Because we are bringing them in and they're supposed to be part of the team. Because all the assistant returning officers are allowed to select the teams. Polling teams, I mean. So polling teams. So when they were doing that, we scrutinized. We asked them to bring all the names so that we can see. Because it's such a small place and we know who's who. So.
All right, forgive my ignorance, and you know, there are probably many Papua New Guineans listening in who have the same lack of knowledge that I do. So the process of selection, you nominate him all returning officers. They go through that appointment process, and after they are appointed, they get to choose their own teams. You guys don't do that. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm, no. We are saying that the team, they can select the teams, but they bring it to the PSC to make sure they scrutinize the team.
And that's my question. All yet select him?
Yeah, all can bring him online or outside. But not
so all like pick him one top blow or one lotu or uncle or country or I'm like blow.
But normally they apply to electoral commission to get them listed, but some of them, electoral commission probably do not know their backgrounds. So maybe by looking, we will say that no, not this one, that person, so. That's eventually ended up with questioning us that what jurisdictions do you have to ask them this and that.
Then I would respectfully submit that people like that, Yupla Makimol, and next time they shouldn't even be considered for
Yes.
to be returning officers or whatever it is. Some display attitude, them say lead suspicion, distrust long, or process long election because people are selecting their own wantoks and relatives and putting them into all these positions, and so on and so forth. Anyway, thank you, clarification, Blue. Please continue.
Chairman, maybe let me make one just comment law. They don't select them and bring them, but they apply through the normal process. But they would be bringing people in to apply, so eventually, but otherwise.
But then they are questioning your authority to ask them why they are bringing this person in, and hence my interest in that situation.
But Chairman, if you don't think it's proper, but unless the existence of the provincial election steering committee, should that be, have some provisions, the law that protects them, or also give them the authority to act as if they were. Like we run the elections in some of the places, I do not.
My issue is that candidates, and maybe it's not the same in Manus, but situation you describe here.
Yeah.
Suppose me exists in Narla province, and if candidates and scrutineers come to the conclusion that Emol desla line only supporters lo one candidate or Narla candidate, and if they are suspicious that there is no impartiality in the people conducting the process, then we have an issue. And it's from that basis that me asking you this question. You see, our struggle in Papua New Guinea, and this is why listening to Bougainville is such a relief that, Olan lo Arab, they've learned to be better than the rest of us. Although suspect about, or there's no mistrust, there's a lot of trust in that process. I like that. And so you go around Papua New Guinea, candidates, supporters, everybody is suspicious of everybody else.
Yeah. True.
Suppose one little mistake come up, quick time troll, toko corruption or foul play, or all use him kawar or kambang or put him all ballot paper and manipulate it. You see, this is what we are trying to avoid. We are trying to avoid this high level of distrust na suspect. You may just suspect logra something, but Bougainville tasol no gat. They're able to do it in a comeback lo yupla. Me interest lo understanding this la process, because if there is any suspicion about the way officials are getting appointed, because lo sample have me like only complain lo returning officer, yeah? And me personally, I had no idea that these returning officers could then propose who becomes part of the team. I was always of the opinion, until you mentioned it this morning, that there's a line process is a selective, not mania yatikam na propose usad by work one the memlo. There's a particular polling booth or there's like na and me no sabe until now you talk to. So that's why I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. But I want you to understand that from the committee standpoint, we want to ensure that these processes where people are getting selected into these positions of trust, conducting election, that process must be above reproach. If there are questions on the process, then you can understand why all candidates, all suspect go. Sampla belat kisim busnaip killing one planarbla, as we saw in Port Moresby. Sampla only go cooking all ballot box, as we saw in Morobe. So you have just given us, I think, a very important revelation. So hence my line of questioning. So I want you to understand it, and I'm grateful that you have informed the committee of, and perhaps that's something that we may need to investigate, how people get selected law. Come inside and make him this law work. Because these are the things that candidates who have every right to stand for elections are going to be asking. How yupla makim mania? Even me, a sitting governor, and I asked my administrator, who is the chairman of the Provincial Election Steering Committee, time, me looking more put him name blow on money go. Provincial returning officer, me ask him, hey, you saw this laman? What's he like? Is he a person of good character? I mean, I asked that question. So if we are all doing that, then we've got to make sure that that process is above reproach. So everyone has confidence in it. And also, me ask him, sorry, long explanation, but I think if Papua New Guineans are looking in, I mean, Papua New Guineans, some of them, I only know Billy Paul said, Mibla by making good walk, lo, this la, committee too. Only thing also, Mibla by making one side walk, you look at him. Things have gotten so skewed in our country that everyone is suspicious of everyone else. And that's the reason why you look in big money as in on backside, I'm director belong, NRI, National Research Institute. We are allowing NRI, Transparency International, and you've probably seen Mr. Paul Baka in the corner. He's in charge of the INA, Institute of National Affairs. Paul Baka is one of the biggest critics of government sitting over there. He is helping us to write this report. And he will tell you, if you ask him during the coffee break, that Allan Bed knows I'm going to influence him. I mean, Paul is not someone you can influence. Put it that way, he's smiling. This is the reason why we have brought together highly credible people and institutions to look at this process. So me like him, Yubla all get a understanding Yubla why. So Yubla line lo manusi bring him up this like important information that I think we are taking note of. Sorry, long explanation, but I want you to understand why we are asking this. So please proceed.
All right, thank you, Chairman. We start with the enrollment. We maybe released them 301 staff for 2 weeks. They were in the 131 wards. We conducted our enrollment. Electoral Commission
wards.
gave us 36,000, 3,000 to each LLG, and the Manus Provincial government gave 297,304 kina. So that was the enrollment. We enrolled in the 2017 enrollment, we had 32,375 enrolled. But during the check, they checked the first time they went out, they checked and found out that they eliminated almost 4,000 people. Some died, some transferred. There was so 4,000. And the list, when it came back, we had about 10,755 eligible voters. We need to enroll them, so we enrolled all of them. We went especially to Electoral Commission to collect the forms, Form 11. We brought them back and we enrolled all of them. So they were like 39,279 people were enrolled. During the election, maybe I got them, 39,279 were enrolled, and in the election was 29,000 people came for election, 29,386 only vote. So almost like 75% of the people who enrolled, they participated. In the enrollment part of it, we didn't found any challenges, except it was our people were there to enroll with our ward development officers, who are also officers who live in the villages, so made it easy, except that the time was short and fundings were not enough because the Electoral Commission did not give us enough funds. Like 36,300, 3,000 to our ward is, you can't run any common roll update in Manus. When you reach the furthest island like Wuvulu, it's 20,000 one trip, and we couldn't do it. So provincial government has to step into commit 290,000 for us to do it. Chairman, we believe that common role and responsibility belong to Electoral Commission. I heard yesterday that we will move it to provincial government. They can take charge of it. Those are from provinces who have a lot of money. For Manus, the people no got money to give an extra.
Suppose me stop me pastor. Suppose committee recommend him also. Manus will be given a certain amount of money directly from Treasury to update your electoral roll. Would that change your position?
Already changed, yeah.
You are talking to the government of Papua New Guinea, not the government, the parliament, sorry. We have the power to summon ministers. And that is your power we are using to try and help you so that you can do your jobs better. We want a better system, so talk to us like, give him wish list to come, you la remember consider him, no blow you low, cut him neck blow you yet before you start. Please continue.
Yeah, Chairman, I was just going to say that so SCAT money also will be. So we provide adequate fundings to resource, then we can actually continue with the common order update, but we can do it ourselves because it's easy. It's easy. And we also, those people who do not come and enroll, and those ones who do not come to vote and say something, both of them should be prosecuted. Because we noticed that those people who do not have the list name, they're the ones that are provoking a lot of things that are happening. And we found at some instance that during the election, there were people who didn't even come and actually enrolled. They went down, we had a team sitting in front of them, they went to market, they came back, and then after the enrollment, it closed. And during the election, the very same people, they came to Mibla Lago. And our presiding officer told them that I was sitting here for a week and you never came to enroll, so you don't have come.
Well, this is why we are very keen to fix the electoral roll. And by fixing it, I mean, you make some data straight law, vote record book, which means that you don't have to enroll. We enroll you. You don't run low west up, you go Pine Piso. Walk Gardeno, it doesn't matter. We are the government. We register you, and that should be our responsibility. At the moment, we are putting the onus on the people. Now, time law registration, I mean, even me, I didn't even know when people were registering, and I'm the governor of the province. So, you know, man lo place too, you say, I'm going to walk Saksako, and make it one em stop, and you know, walk a cow. So we've got to be, as government, I think we've got to be a little bit more proactive, and I think we are thinking, as a committee, that time people are giving people this responsibility, what we need, then think about it like this. Census is not working. Census is very expensive. I'll get a this little walk block government, you may like make him all talk NID, one, these things are, they're talking hundreds of millions. We need to find a cheaper way to run the country. So if it means that we give the money to Manus province na, you play working on patrol na, you play Karimol health officers na, education officers, all get Hamas pla officer, you play bungim lo one plus speedboat na, you go lo one pla island na, make him all work same time. Then you do that. That's what, you know, we are trying to look at how we can improve the entire process, but at the same time, improving relationship namelo national na provincial government, so our people don't continue to miss out. 47 years of missing out. So I want to make that clear to you guys. Also, more public servants are. Plenty time you play public servant, maybe like walking train track that we put you there and you just operate there, so you hardly go outside. But sometimes we are hearing from some provinces like East New Britain, they didn't stick with what they were given. ECPIC, there are a few provinces that actually decided to do something new, and we are sort of keen on that sort of thing. So just to let you know, you play in one province, one district now. You know, given your distances, perhaps that's another issue. And these are the things. You play giving me plalo here, hopefully we can put it together. NRI is sitting at the back. If there are things like, you know, some kind of formula that we need to use. I'm a big fan of formula or calculating or funding all different all provinces. I have one district that's 17,000 square kilometers. That district is bigger than the autonomous region of Bougainville. One district. And we are struggling to provide services in that one district. So if Lolan Manusi got issue one time, then I want to say that I understand and I empathize. Please proceed.
All right, thank you, Chairman. The funding for 22 general election, first trends come along around April, it was 16,500. So Electoral Commission was releasing funds in tranches. And the second one was 760,000 in June. The third was 200,000 in October. A total of 976,000. Manus Provincial government released almost 800,000 too, and they were kept in a trust account that was created by Electoral Commission. Signatory was Provincial Finance Manager and the Electoral Manager.
All the funds were put into one account?
Yeah.
Well done.
They were into one account and they were funds. But the earlier part of a common roll update, they had no funds, so we were using our funds. But the other funds were all into the one account and they were managed by the finance and the electoral manager. It's a total of 1,483,800 was used for the general election in 2023. Polling period, we had 38 teams, polling teams, and deployed almost 304 staff. They went in 231 votes. The furthest island, we used PNG Defense Force boat, cost us about 300,000 to the north and southwestern. Our election period was 1 week. We had no problem. There were a little bit of problems, but there was our AROs, they were able to. One of the issue we saw from during the polling period was the scrutineers complained about the serial number of the ballot books. When they were supplied, like they were inconsistent. If you supply 0 to 50, and then you don't even supply 51 to 100, you supply another number. So like scrutineers and the candidates thought that there was something missing and where are the other ones. So that was the biggest part of our problem during the election.
Who numbered those ballot boxes?
Not the box, but the ballot papers.
Ballot papers?
Yeah.
So time only come, there was a series missing, huh?
Yeah, no, when they supplied it was serious. Like if you are supplying a book that contains 50.
Every book is 50.
Some I think is 124. Yeah, but those ones, if you are like supplying 50 innocent, 0, 1 to 50 should be, and then if you are supplying 2, then it should from 51 to 100. But when they supply 1 to 50, and they probably gives you like 101 to another 150. So in the middle there's a gap, so people were thinking that who's hiding this ballot paper?
Was the issue resolved?
Yeah, because we told them that, and we took the scrutiny actually into the all the wards, the team, so that they can see the serial number and collect all the serial number for all the ballot paper that went to the ward. So that got sorted out, but otherwise there was like, they thought that we were hiding some ballot papers, or because the series was not like missing. There was the sequence problem, they like 50 to 51 was missing, so they said, how are you supplying 51 to 50 and you are not supplying 51 to 100? But it was not our problem, it was something that was supplied from the Electoral Commission. But that was the only issue that we saw in the polling.
Was the missing series ever found? All Painim too, or no order?
No, because only no supplying.
That's interesting. Because, we would have thought that if you start at 01 and, there's 10,000 ballot papers for one district, which is Manus province essentially, that you would have 01 to 10,000, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Or 20,000 or whatever the number is.
44,000, I think.
So some are missing no namel.
Yeah. And probably supplied to other place or even as other serial.
But surely ballot papers for Manus province are specific
Manus
for Manus. They cannot be used in, say,
No,
ECP.
sorry, that's not a true comment, but yeah.
Okay.
They
Well,
never supplied.
that's a strange anomaly that we haven't encountered before. Mr.
Chairman.
Ponau, you like
Yeah.
Edim Sambla Doktor.
What happened is that when they supplied 01 to 50 in team number 1, polling team number 1, and then 51 to 100, it finds itself in another team. So scrutineers and candidates and supporters come not to know where is 51 to 100. It should be in this team.
So
And
it
that's the
was
issue.
the distribution.
Yes,
at-
distribution was done by the PNGEC. And when it comes to us, we just went ahead and conduct the election as they have provided us with the ballot papers. But after that, we came to resolve this issue. The ballot papers did not go missing, but it was found in another team,
In another, yeah.
polling teams.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. That's what I was trying to establish earlier.
Sorry. In the 23 election, Chairman, we had 6 women who contested in the open seat and 1 from the regional seat. The 6 was out of 35 candidates that contested for open seat. There was 6 women and 1 out of 19 candidates who contested for the regional seat. All the women that contested, they were never eliminated from the primary count. They went through until the elimination process. That was good, and only one in the open count actually was at the final trick elimination. And she could have won that in the open. Yeah.
Seat or regional seat?
Open seat. In looking at the women candidate, we were thinking like, why can't you make creating one party Blol Mary in Papua New Guinea? If it is possible, women, at the moment, I think our Papua New Guinea society, I think they're given, we don't recognize women, and it may become after maybe 50 years or so, no good, they will have this respect. But otherwise, we were thinking that there should be a women party in the, where all the women can mobilize themselves. And then we probably see something that will happen. And we can get a lot of women can be elected, but otherwise, and especially also in the region too, we should have parties that mobilize together to support women in the provinces. Chairman, about the scrutineers, during the election, we provided a lot of opportunity for scrutineers to make sure they have the benefit of creating this opportunity not to have doubts on what we do. So we provided them to go into the counting. They also help checked all the ballot serial number, like we've said, and they got all the meet all our teams. They went around meeting all our teams and making so we provide some confidence in them, because otherwise we did not do any training for them, and so we didn't want to do that. So they provided total visibility. When we went to counting, we gave them enough space for them to sit, and so by doing that, we still had a lot of problem with the scrutineers, but like they've discussed yesterday meeting, all scrutineers should be gazetted. Like you have said, they should be gazetted straight after nomination. All the candidates scrutineers should be gazetted so that they have this, and anyone who's found the scrutineers should also be charged. If we find that if they're acting out of their responsibility or their jurisdictions, then you must charge them all. For the counting, we use the public market to count. It's an open but gated big building. So we had all the counting in the public market and provided opportunity for everyone to come and sit around. So the counting, first time in Manus, we counted for 2 weeks. It's always like a week and you declare. And we usually to be the first in all the elections to declare, but that time, Mibla last. We almost declared at the time when the rates was just about to be returned.
Sorry, the administrator, you said you started the count and then you were the last to declare. So what was the main reason why you actually was the last to declare the candidate who won in Manus?
Simply, Chairman, simply because candidates were coming to us and scrutineers were voicing their concerns that delayed the process of counting. And we had to stop several times in a day.
What were their concerns? And I mean, this is the reason why we are here to do this. Why are scrutineers and candidates disrupting the process?
That is something that I wouldn't know, but when they...
What were their main complaints? Let's deal with that. What were their main concerns? All concerned want something.
One particular candidate voiced concern that his ballot papers were not distributed on his on the tray that was counted for, but was given to other candidates, and then they need to sort out those ballot papers again.
So did that actually happen? Was it?
No, it was just suspicious.
So the scrutineer made a mistake.
Yes.
What can we do to provide greater transparency over the process so that this kind confusion namelongol scrutineers and by non-up come up.
I would suggest, Chairman, that in trainings of the polling officials, selected scrutineers, candidates, scrutineers must also attend the training.
So did Manus conduct training of the scrutineers prior to this particular election or not?
No, we did not.
Okay, so that added to the confusion.
Maybe.
Because we had in Eastern Highlands where they provided training for the scrutineers, they had no issues. And they used their own funding. They actually got the candidates to pay for the training. And that's what Eastern Highlands did. And we were quite impressed with it. And the candidates happily paid. All buy them tea, coffee, sugar, one something. Na bungi molga dal scrutineers luan plahapna. They trained them. And they thought they had a better outcome in Eastern Highlands. So just so you blow line lo manus can, and that's what I mean by public servants becoming innovative and trying to solve problems. Instead of saying must be no give money or who said no give money, they went ahead and
Yes.
so. But it's interesting that you confirmed that there was no training. So heavy come up. Anyway, continue.
Thank you. So during the counting, like you said, there were other issues like someone believed that my grandmother or my father comes from this place and I'm supposed to score higher than the other candidate. So during the counting, only talk stopped too, so we had to sort them out. But it never went into escalated to anyone until they demanded, they did some petitions, the candidates. They wrote to Electoral Commission that they want the response right now. And if we do not provide the response, they want the people from the Electoral Commission to come down. So they demanded. We didn't suspend it, we just suspended the count. And then we asked the Electoral Commission team law, Kamlo Manus. They sent someone there, they couldn't even agree that they wanted to see the commissioner there.
Candidate law one particular place, huh?
No, they're all candidates. They're a group of candidates. They were together.
Okay. And their complaint was place bloliet no gim vote lol.
No. They were completely like general part of what he said. My deputy said. Also, they wrote petitions that, like the one important one was that about the serial number, and all the other ones. So they wanted the Electoral Commission to answer. That was part of it towards the end of the counting, not the end, but towards almost to the end of the counting, only stopping me blau. They stopped us, so we had to go to the police station to make sure, get ourselves sorted out. Because we couldn't sort it out anyway, because they were all candidates around and we couldn't do it inside the market because we can't allow the candidates to come in.
So it was a range of complaints.
Yeah, range
of
complaints. Yeah, no, there were a lot of complaints. People were not happy. And so anyway, we got it sorted out.
But Manus is one of our most literate provinces,
Yes.
similar to East New Britain. I'm tupla highly literate provinces na. East New Britain only got problem lo kambang na kawar na. You plan lo Manus, what is your excuse?
I really don't know. It was the first time. I participated in the elections for maybe last 3 or 4 elections, and we'd never seen this thing. But that was the first time. And even they demanded that the electoral manager and my officer to stand down.
What, in your suggestions to us, what can we do to improve that situation in Manus? Given, again, I repeat myself, a very literate province, one of our top 2 highly literate provinces, Manus, East New Britain, but Yupla particularly. What can we do as a government and as an election team over time to improve that situation where all man meri by got trust long integrity of this process where you play conducting. How can we do that? Because obviously we don't want a repeat of this process in 2027 or even in the local level government elections. Mibla like improving so we can avoid such situations in the future. What do you suggest?
Chairman, I would suggest that every candidate who get themselves nominated, who wants to stand up for election, they must also be inducted in the process of election.
That's not a bad suggestion. So perhaps what, 1 year out, Olga the man marry like resist the election, you may put him all go to school past them.
So that they also have a process for election, when a Sunday by come out.
That's not a bad suggestion.
Because you see, when chairman, when they go out, the candidates went out, all line of place, all professional conman to you. They said, this house, then we're giving you 500 votes.
Kind people manus lo top is in there.
When it comes to election, he finds that he doesn't receive that 500 votes.
Okay.
He said, hey, my voters told me that I'll be receiving 500. Why did not I receive 500? So you sabi man, no long money, Paul, you sabi money.
So all man lo place it con him candidate. Well, you see, there's the difference. In Civic, they'll tell you, sorry, 1 vote and no gat, people are giving penis. 2 na 3 stamps, suppose you like, okay, come. So I think it's a different cultural context again. They will not lie to you and say, look.
That's what happens when you are well educated.
Yes, but you come lo must be and people are problem. And people are all too like your money more line lo must be. But all right. So manus kind pasin people talk pilay extend the golong election too.
Yes, I now, Chairman.
Yeah, you guys are too close to my province for comfort. So the candidates actually, well, I think most of your candidates would come from POM, wouldn't they? Because
They are both must be candidates.
okay,
But because of election, they come back home and they will never make it. Because all I know, place they have.
and many are highly educated too, right?
Yes.
All candidates, blah blah.
That's correct. In the history of election in Manus, those candidates coming outside from Manus will never win the election. You man lo place you chrome ruslu finish. And when you come, you spend so much money, they will eat your rice, they will whatever, but when it comes to casting their vote, they'll walk away from you. That 500 will give you no gat.
Kind lol sipik all but kakel all gonna have, but you yet sabe well or put him. I'm same sig you play that, me play that.
Chairman, because war recipients I ended up Lomipla, so it starts from me.
All get that you flexing.
Chairman, I was going to ask the acting provincial administrator and deputy chair can also come in. You got 1 district, 1 province.
Yeah.
Tell us, any problems with mixing ballot papers, provincial candidate come open candidate, any experience of that? It's 1 province, 1 district, any problems with that?
No,
No.
because this is like 1 province, 1 district. They're the same people who have gone and all the elections. So we never happen like any problem like you get mixed with the ballot papers. So.
Highly literate.
Yeah, apart from being literate, yeah. If, for example, the committee re-looks at the structure of 1 district, 1 province, by reviewing the formulas, if we give you 2 districts, what's your view?
Thank you. I have actually represented in the provincial administrators conference, and we wanted 2 districts because we thought Manus is the only province who need a district, unlike the other ones. But yes, if you recommend Manus to have another district, that will sort out a lot of things for us.
You would support it?
Yes.
And general feeling around the province?
All Manus will support it.
What's the reason? Why? Why are you
Reason
supporting?
being, we have, people call us a small province, but it's very difficult to provide services. We actually rely on money that is provided by the national government. And having 1 district is a disadvantage to us. If we have 2 districts, we think that it's an opportunity for us to extend our services to our people well.
How many members are in the provincial assembly?
We have 12 members in the Provincial Assembly,
How many?
12 LLG members, 2 nominated members, and the open member and the governor, so that's a total.
So if we have 2 districts, there'll be 6 in each, 6
Yeah.
LLGs per district. I've got 3 LLGs in my district. Yeah. So, okay, that's interesting. My second question is counting through the LPV system. It takes a long time,
Yeah.
etc. Share with the committee, would you think that we could relook at how we count under the LPV system? What options would you tell the committee?
When you have a lot of candidates, like we had last time 35, 19, it takes quite a long time to count. And one of the process that we went through that took almost like long because we have experience like Manus, usually a few candidates. But this time we had a lot of candidates, so LPV takes a lot of time. And the counting period's like extended to 2 weeks now from Manus, but we would support if you can look at like, we have no problem. Why do we can't go back to past the post? It's easy. And with the other experience, when we count, and with the LPV, then we had a lot of interruption between all the others telling, because the length of counting that's gone too far, too long. And they will ask you to count again. The scrutineers were asking, me no hamamas. So we had to remove the candidate, the ballot paper, and you do recount again for just one candidate if the scrutineers problem. So if it's best opposed, we could have done it a long time.
Oh, at the moment we are LPV, so we'd rather look at LPV, and my question was, is there space for us to review the counting process in LPV? For example, some people are saying, we count everything. Who gave for vote 1, put in vote 1. Vote 2, put in vote 2. Vote 3, put in vote 3, and count everybody. And whoever wins the most in first preference plus, second preference plus, third preference, end by win. But we are working on 50% plus 1.
Yes.
Once somebody hits 50% plus 1, you may stop now, you may declare. How about the total wish of the people in the second and third preferences? Should we recommend that we get a team to relook at the way we count in the LPV system? We won't go back to the first past the post yet, but LPV counting, have we made a legal mistake by saying 50% plus 1, and then we allow one person to vote for 3 choices, but we are not counting the others because somebody has reached 50% plus 1? Is that fair? So I'm raising this question, so throughout the country, those of you who have some smart ideas to give it to the committee, please let us know. And those of you who are in and those who are experienced, because my personal view, LPV counting, long time, expensive, then you go to quality check, long time, candidates are spending money feeding their scrutineers and their supporters, and you are tired and you have not given your allowances, or you are protesting and delays are coming and others have been declared throughout the country and you are waiting and everything is come to a stop for some provinces or some districts.
Thank you. LPV is actually counting everyone that has voted. So, and then the exhaustive ballots are the ones that has been already counted. So they would not have left out anyone who voted. But the length of time of counting is too long. But otherwise, I don't know if there's any other way. If you use LPV to make sure that you get all the names who have voted, because in the process they're actually counting everyone that has voted.
How about the issue of scrutiny complaints and candidates' complaints in the counting room? Because the process is, all officials and staff Sometimes scrutiny is a bit far away, some are very close, and so your officials are counting and scrutineers are complaining. They SMS the candidate and candidate comes and breaks security gate
sorry,
or
sir.
whatever.
Could you put your phone on silent, please, ma'am? And anyone else, if you have a phone, put it on silent. We understand if you need to take a call. Thank you. Sorry, sir. Puka. Continue.
And so there is a lot of stoppages of counting by the scrutineers and the candidates. It's nationwide because everybody wants to win. And so, but our problem is the way we are counting in the counting room. It's like secret counting. Why don't we hold a ballot paper up? Everybody sees it. Scrutineer line up there. This is that vote. Everybody agree, number one went to that candidate, number two went to that candidate, so that ballot paper goes to that candidate because all of them agree that M1 here.
In Manu's experience last year, Chairman, we were counting in one central counting.
Pull the microphone closer to you so we can hear you.
Yeah, we were counting, thank you, Chair. We were counting in one central
At the
counting
market.
venue. Yes, at the market. And then we found out that time was catching up with us. So we called the scrutineers together with their candidates and we want to, establish another 2 counting centers for the regional seat. So one was out that way, the other one was out that way, this is the central counting center. After they completed counting, primary count, they transfer all the ballot papers back to the main counting venue. And that's where the scrutineers came back. Candidates also spread the scrutineers. One goes there, the other one goes here, and one remains here. That was what we did.
What was the effect of the stoppages? How, I'm suppose you play Edim all at a time where all scrutineers intervene, stop him counting. You think by how many days all get all stop him counting?
Chairman, that was our mistake. We wanted to provide visibility, so we allowed them to dictate, like if they don't want to see it, we allow them.
So how many days altogether? What was your total counting period? 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
And in the 2 weeks, how many days were you did you actually count and how many days did you stop?
We never stopped. We just suspended the count for a few hours.
Every day?
Every day. No, not every day. We never stopped every day.
Okay.
When we had, Chairman, when we have issues from the candidates, members of the Provincial Election Steering Committee, we met with them. And the counting officials continue counting.
Okay.
We did not stop the counting.
No.
When there were issues around, we attend to them with the security personnel while the counting continues.
Okay, coming back to what Puka was asking. What if there's a big TV screen up there? Now all get a vote here. Now all scrutineers sit and look stop, you plus show him now. All get a man can look him now, so M1 block him. I mean, if we had more transparency in the counting rooms, would that help?
Chairman, I would recommend for that. We will have to establish CCTV in the counting venue.
So one can also
as well
maybe
in the
watch him
counting.
rugby league here, you can just put him
we
screen.
just watch it. Shame.
So, time online outside, they can have their screen outside, they can watch
yeah.
what's happening in here.
That's it.
Every ballot paper that comes out, they can query, we'll put it out, they can see it outside. So that we're all on the same track.
And everybody agrees on informal votes,
Yeah.
formal votes, or same transparency process.
That's
Rather than hide him, the IPLO officials bound him into tents and then throw them. And then quality check, some problems come up. You've thrown too much on one box and another less. And then you try to do that, so there's a,
Suspicion.
so everybody's upset with it. So we need to find a more transparent, visible, easy to manage. And then we finish in no time.
Take a better look at the actual counting process.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
Chairman, thank you. I think one blessing thing that's all. If we are, I don't know how close we are for biometric sort of system, but if we do it, that will probably solve a lot of our issues. And counting as well, if it is.
Well, the committee is thinking, and the technology is available. And we would like to deploy we already know that there are issues with the current software provider in Port Moresby. We are aware of that. But, you know, we are not here to cater to friends or relatives or whoever. We are here to protect the interests of the people of Papua New Guinea. So currently in ICIPIC, there is a group that was brought in by the central bank. They use a telephone like this with a special attachment at the back. They take your picture, they take your 2 thumbprints, they enter your details, and within 5 minutes, they print a card. And we are using that for financial literacy. And it's got the endorsement of the central bank, and we're piloting it for financial literacy. But I was just discussing with my colleague members here that that could easily be deployed for, in my view, for something like elections. Yeah. So that's the first thing we want to do is fix the electoral roll. And if we can have an electronic roll, and we want to start work on that next year, not 2026. We want to do it next year. And one of the reasons why we are doing this process is to complete it quickly, take the recommendations, go to Parliament in the next sitting, which is in June. So next month or so. We want to get it endorsed, and we want to get into the budget. So we start with sorting out, we have an electronic roll. All the money got 1 record. You don't have 2 records, 1 blah. So all get all pick dog kagarukna, liblo diwai don't have kamna vote. We have actual human beings, no kawawar, no kambang, strata. That's what we are thinking. But electronic voting, perhaps down the track. Because we don't want to complicate things, and we don't want to get things that are difficult to implement. We want to, but we think the technology is there, and we think that at some point we can go to electronic voting as well. But these are things that we've got to develop. But even then, we've got to make sure that all of our processes are above reproach. Because we know now, for example, that people are manipulating the common roll in the electoral office in Moresby. We know that already. So the integrity of the data and the integrity of the electoral roll needs to be protected. So maybe blockchain technology or something like that. And that's what we are working on, and we believe as a committee that the technology is there to allow us to do those things. We already know that there's a photo roll that was trialed in Abao, Kupiano. And it worked really well, but for some reason it was never fully deployed. There's been some work already by the Electoral Commission, and it's perhaps up to us as a committee now to make sure that we roll out all of those good initiatives and make it standard practice. So if we fix the electoral roll, that's the first thing. And then we've got to figure out how to give 1 person 1 vote. And then obviously now we've got an issue with the counting. How do we speed up that process? Yeah. I mean, do we have special ballot papers where you mark it with a special ink so the computer can read it and we put it through that way? We don't know. I mean, you look at I was watching the bank people yesterday, the other day when I was in Moresby doing banking, and they have an electronic, they put it through and the machine actually reads the numbers, which I was surprised. And when the lady ran the check and it didn't work, she pulled it back and she got a paper clip and she rubbed it on the numbers. And I asked her, why you rubbing paper clip at the number? I'm talking, this thing is magnetic. So me rubbing one and by reading all number good. I was like, I was quite surprised. So she put it through a second time and it read it. So the bank is using that kind of technology. So we know the technology is there in bits and pieces. I'm not a technology expert, but you see these things happening and you think, well, perhaps there are possibilities. So, we are an open-minded committee. We're not here to say to you, this is how we want to do it, but we are here to learn and try to understand the problems and to say to you that we will leave no stone unturned in finding a solution, because I think our people deserve that. So just to let you know. So biometric, yes, but perhaps in stages. You miss fixing common roll, then we look at other things. And if it's possible for us to do it in 2027, by all means, we will do it in 2027. And that's the commitment of, your parliament to you. So, continue, sir.
Just a question, Mr. Nungu. How long have you been in the public service?
Sorry?
How long have you been in public service?
In the service?
Public service?
36 years.
Long time. And you've also conducted or overseen many elections over that time. And as Chairman was saying, Manus is a well-educated community. I want to seek your views on one big issue. We are a diverse country. They say over 850 tribes. And therefore, the behavior during the election depicts that diversity. In the islands region, you have a certain behavior pattern. Momase pattern, as in the southern region, certain pattern. Highlands region, they have a certain behavior pattern. In the 2022 elections, there was more problems in the Highlands region in terms of election issues. We saw ballot boxes being banned, and also in Mombasa as well. But that behavioral issues. But our laws are universal. So if you, for example, our issue, all tribe by vote, you know, one vote. Leader or tribe, only vote law, sample half law country, or split votes. So the issue of one vote, some provinces is thrown out of the window. It doesn't happen like that. So women don't vote by themselves. They don't vote at all because somebody marks all the ballot papers. And some of them have admitted that, you're right, people are working on Semia. But the law says, no, it's illegal. And so my question is, should we relook at the law to accommodate the differences in behavior? Should we say by law that in the Highlands region, you Platribia Golo polling area, polling officials stop, scrutineers too stop, but you tell the polling official who will mark the ballot papers for your tribe. And then you mark it in front of everybody, we put a seal around it, and then everybody accepts that I'm okay because I'm passing here. Melanesia culture. But in fact, in Manus, I think, for a village, if a candidate is from a village, that whole village agrees to vote for their son or daughter. Am I telling lies? It happens. And so the law, which is the role of Parliament as a legislature, we may have to look at it again. And as somebody that served for 36 years, well educated, managed elections and reading Facebook and social media, what happened in 2020 election, that is why we were appointed to look at the issues. This one issue of style of voting here, how are we going to address it in the country with our diversity? Should we just say law enough, one vote, one person, one vote enough? If there is no one vote, one person, that election in that electorate is null and void and it's declared failed. Should we go that tough? What's your view?
Deputy Chairman, thank you. Amy had black question to me, but I'm an islander. I lived 36 years on Manus Island. I've seen a lot of elections. You will see one Manus candidate or two or three, they will join together, they go out campaign together. They will say the drinks, they go and vote, say it's your turn to campaign now, you campaign, and then it's the story of the past now. This election, we saw one man for himself. I think they must have brought all the idea, the concept from outside the islands. And even actually in the one of the complaint they made to me and they threatened me is that I'm Highlands here, current person Highlands come. And so I was like, of my view that people have changed, not because they changed, the culture has changed, but people, I think they changed because of environment that is surrounding them. They see now politics is about making money or You know that when you do politics, your life is okay. Those days, they were service-driven. They were service-driven people. They want 8 posts, health centers, they want schools. Today, they think about what they can get. So there's a risk, like, in my opinion, is if we do tribal vote, you will create more enemies. One tribe is going to fight with the other. For Manus, I wouldn't encourage that, and I don't like our community to go into this sort of voting. We want one person has to get into the ballot box and make his choice. But unfortunately, it's coming that way, and slowly we will see. Today, like you have said, we saw like, this guy is really probably nobody. And that's why one of my recommendations was for people who want to nominate, we must find people who must really seriously nominate. Who wants to. You score 1 vote and you are eliminated from the first preliminary count, but you candidate. And if you...
So you're saying, like some of the other suggestions that we received, that we take a look at the qualification of candidates?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You check the qualification of candidate.
We,
Not only that, but raise the fare of people who want to pay.
yeah,
Because
some provinces have already recommended that we increase the nomination fee.
nomination fee, yes.
Yeah.
So otherwise, but for us to change the rule of voting, you allow people to vote by group or by ethnical tribe, or I would think will create more problem than allowing people to go into a ballot box and vote individually.
Well, it's interesting to hear you say that, and I'm glad Puka asked you that question. One of our committee members who's not here, Honorable Maki, he apparently spent 30 years in Medang as a policeman, and he went and contested up in his, he's from the Highlands as well. And he was saying, he said, mi kam lo Medang na, mi sabe lo pasin lo Medang na, mi kam ron lo hab lo miet na, it's so different. And he was surprised at the way his people behaved, but he managed to win an election up in the Highlands. But I wish he was here, because his contributions, I thought, were, and like yours, very similar. You've spent 30 years in Manus, and you can see, and that's one of the things I think as a committee we, and you know, this is where I think Puka is coming from. We want to understand what we need to protect. What should we protect? Should we protect the right of the tribe over the process, or should we protect the right of the individual in the process? And, you know, we spoke to the people in Morobe, and they're saying that the behavior they had where they're burning ballot boxes, stable islands na kam doon, although highway, so maybe like sim now. So we are concerned as a committee and, you know, as parliamentarians, what should we be protecting? And you should tell us. We are here to make laws on your behalf. We, but you know, we are inclined. Like for me personally, I want to protect the way the civic people do things, because I feel it's important. But that's my cultural background. I feel that every civic man, woman, disabled, able-bodied should be able to go and cast their vote. They should go and find themselves on the electoral roll. That's what I feel, because I know that's what the civic people want. Yeah. But, you know, Puka raises an interesting point. Andap long Highlands, only to know at Miblam tribes about. People pass him tokenis. So what do we do? You know, what do we do? This is the first time in 47 years we are reviewing our electoral process.
Yeah.
And the electoral process is fundamental to our democratic institutions. Underlying lowest common denominator is the elections. And we want to understand, I mean, if you are saying that the people of Manus have now changed the way they're doing this, people of Civic still holy man yet. But then some candidates in some places, they get a bit hot-headed and they no longer work together. You do get that where all got a candidate by gang up lo sitting member, lo try and browse him sitting member. I mean, I suppose that's expected.
Everywhere, yes.
I mean, I had, in my election, all the candidates wanted to get rid of me. So I had that, so nobody worked with me, but in the previous election, 2017, when I wasn't a member, I was working with other candidates. And in even elections going back. But time you come a member now, I'm not at me, like you. There are those sorts of sentiments, and perhaps that's not just a cultural thing, you know, that's just a reality of politics.
Yeah.
But coming back, should we protect the right of the individual to vote? I think so. What do you think? Manu sivula tingwa niyo. The right of the individual to make a choice. Or as Puka, should we allow the tribe to do that?
By law.
By law. And I see the East New Britain people are uncomfortable in their seats.
I would recommend that we should respect every individual to cast their votes
The rights.
rather than the tribes. Yeah. We should have one person individually to go and cast his or her vote,
And we protect that.
Yeah.
and we protect them. Yes.
I have a second question to the acting PA, Mr. Nungu. In your current statement, one of the issues that you raised was all politicians are, everybody is rushing to become a politician because there are better conditions, they will become rich quickly, etc., etc. That raises an issue of our national structure. The issue of, okay, we need to look at that. We mustn't hide it under the carpet. And so my question is, our public service is now politically influenced. And so public servants in the district, for example, are waiting for their open member to take the lead. Go find money na, come DDA or meeting na, or working projects about. And so in the process of service delivery, the politicians are taking over in service delivery. How do we respond to that issue as a nation? That's the question. For example, should we say politicians' pay must go down? By law, politicians must not interfere with the public service. By law, we must make the public service independent. By law. So the service delivery arm must be the machinery called the public service and not the politicians. Politicians' role must be clearly defined. They are policy developers and legislators, MTASOL. Stop them from groundbreaking ceremonies. Stop them from distributing checks. Should we go that way as a nation? 3 years' time, we'll be 50 years old as a nation. The machinery arm, in my view, and as a former public servant, has been severely politicized. In this review, should we now relook at the role of politicians, their limits, because some are badly, the corruption process of electing them is badly corrupted. You look at the election petitions, many of them are on bribery charges. So this whole scenario of a structural rearrangement in the country has to be part of the conversation in the country, beginning with our committee. And so, Mr. Nungu, you made a comment and I picked it up. What's your recommendation?
Thank you, Deputy Chairman. I think the provisions of laws are there already. There is clear demarcation of where is your responsibility and as a politician. I think the onus is now with the people who are a politician and maybe the public servant.
Do you think we politicians have too much power and exercise too much discretion over the public service?
I don't know about the other place. The place I work, I don't see that because I am the only authority in doing what the two politicians, their funds, the expenditure, they don't carry checks around. I make sure it's sent to delivery of services, so my experience would not be the same as
I assume, and I'm happy to hear that, I assume you speak to other provincial administrators because you place I work one time. What is the sense that you get from some of your colleagues?
I have not talked to them in this, but I think generally, I think some politicians seems to have the power over the administration, but otherwise, in my experience, I have not seen that.
Fair enough.
Administrator, you've been there for some time now. What do you think about the candidates' eligibility? Should you think that it's time we review, make some adjustment on who should contest the elections? Candidates' requirement or eligibility in contesting elections?
I think that's what our recommendation was, that we saw people who were actually like, they take election as a fun. You see some just nominate because they are able to pay 1,000 kina. So they can go for election. And when you see they eliminated first, they only score maybe one and nothing. So we were thinking like, yes, if there is a need be, or I think there's a need in the country now to really review the eligibility of the candidate who wants to come and nominate.
Should you think that there should be a screening process, for example, for a province or a district there's kind of some, people who wanted to contest the elections, they can maybe do some kind of pre-trial of election first and then screen out and remove some and make some kind of pre-trial process for elections, so that they can screen out who shouldn't be on the election, nominate, and so we can get the best people on board. And I'm just asking if there should be a screening process to allow for, so that we tighten up the candidates and the ones that who can be required to contest elections can contest elections. Not only qualification, but other requirements. People stay from other places. It's a constitutional right for people to contest elections, but we should maybe further look into that and make some further adjustments, and so we get people who can really contribute to, who are serious about contesting elections, not just somebody who just come and get the money and pay for to be a candidate in particular seats.
Thank you. We recommend that if we increase nomination fees, this will sort out many things. When we increase, it will sort out nomination counting process. Counting process will be sorted out. When we increase nomination fees, all intending candidates contesting, number of will become less, and then counting process, and by a countdown. And when our nomination fees remain 1,000, the more intending candidates contested, resulting the longer we take counting process. Thank you.
What's your recommendation on what the nomination fee should be?
I suggest from 1,000 to 5,000.
We have some recommendations for the amount to go up to 10,000 from some places. I see nodding heads in the back. Maybe that's something we'll consider as part of to increase the fee, because I think that's a general consensus. What number we arrive at will probably be something that needs further consultation once we finalize the document, but I thank you for that contribution. Puka.
I just have two more questions left. And that is, one is, would you know, or how did you handle the nomination fee? You collected it and then advised the committee. Where did you deposit it? Did you get something back in the province to help you with your outstandings etc., etc. So I just want to focus on the nomination fee. You had 35 open candidates and 19 regional candidates. So that's 54,000. You had 54,000 collected with 1,000 nomination fee. Where did you deposit that?
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Nomination fees paid through nominating account through Electoral Commission, and then intending candidates produce their receipt to the returning officer or provincial returning officer for nomination.
So what would you suggest? Because you got outstandings everywhere. Shouldn't we have a say in how to use that nomination fee money at the provincial level? Would you recommend that you hold that 54,000 back rather than get it back to the Waigani Electoral Commission? What's your view?
Deputy Chair, I would recommend that every provinces in the country that collects money from the candidates must be paid into a trust account for the province, and to help settle the cost of running the election. When it goes to the electoral account, we don't know what has happened to it.
Also, Electoral Commission doesn't tell you how much they have received, and when they allocate, they only give you very small, and we don't know where the other.
That's correct.
So you are recommending that the candidate fees should be retained in the provincial election trust account?
Yes.
Okay, number 2 question. Every year it seems like, and in Manus you experience it, that numbers of candidates are increasing. I think in Oro there were over 100 candidates for one seat. Now somehow we as a country must not allow that to continue. So we must find a solution. So the committee will have to find solutions, and therefore I want to bring this issue out. How do we handle the increasing number of candidates? And maybe one way, as I alluded to, is tell them that MPs, your pay is going to be lower than the provincial administrator. And you are not going to be project managers. Money will go through the provincial government, and provincial government will manage it. No more district, no more LLG, provincial government. So we have 2 levels of legislature in the country, parliament and province, no more. So we all go to the provincial government, build that up, build the public service up, etc., etc. We have to relook at those things. And in this specific issue of increasing numbers, couldn't we look at something like, rather than increasing the fee or increasing the qualification, couldn't we have a pre-election process? Yeah. 1 month before the writs are issued, whoever wants to stand, you go through a prescribed pre-election race. So only the top 5 will contest in the election. Everybody else is removed from this pre-election process. And so, runoff. So all those Gearman land they can lose, and the only real 3 or 5, we will all vote for them. Wouldn't that be something that we should seriously look at? What's your views?
Deputy Chairman, I think that's what we should progress now. And also, there are so many candidates because there are so many parties too. If we reduce to only few parties and ask them to endorse 2 or 3 candidates only, they should not go and endorse everyone. I think these guys, those people who come and stand, they don't have money. They just get money from somehow. So what we need to do is probably including this sort of recommendation, but also make sure why not we have only few parties, 2 or 3?
Well, they have more candidates because our problem is, our system is, the more members of parliament come from your party, you win the prime minister's election and you are in government. So that's the law now. And so candidates are filled in every seat. Those with money, they are filled in every seat around the country, so they have more numbers, they form the government. So that's our dilemma. And therefore, the question which today our Prime Minister is asking is, should we elect the Prime Minister on the floor of Parliament, or should people around the country elect the Prime Minister? But in the presence of very bad election processes, the result of a Prime Minister will also be worse than the result of members during the election, because our election is a big mess. Can't allow a big mess to go to election a Prime Minister in the country. That's a bigger mess. And so those are the, I call them real structural issues that we as a country must really seriously look at. And therefore, if you strongly support the suggestion that we should have a pre-election run, and the top 3 or top 5, they will contest a regional seat and the open seats, MTASOL. And then the counting is addressed, ballot papers too, very expensive. We just print only 5 ballot papers, different ballot papers, rather than 100. So all the costs are coming down with that process. What do you think?
Thank you. I think that would be the way forward now if we want to eliminate the people who unnecessarily come and stand for election. And some of them you will see that they don't have credential, but they just want to come and stand for election. So if we go through that pre-screening process, then probably cut down all the candidates who are not eligible and find the ones who are eligible to.
Yeah, also, I mean, I've been in politics for 20 years.
Yes.
We spoiled the LPV system. Some of us are campaigning and saying, 1, you give him Lomi. 2, 3, don't give to the second best. 2, 3, give it to the one that will be eliminated. And so there too will come to us. So we have spoiled the spirit of the LPV. And so why not we have a pre-selection election and only 3, so people have just those 3 choices. So nobody play around with, you know. And other candidates are working with other candidates to buy their tools. People are buying 1 finish. You must buy them 2 now. So it's all messed up. Corruption is coming, etc., etc. So we must find out a way out as a young democracy.
I think these are very important questions that we need to engage in. The other one that I'm interested in, and perhaps those academics that are listening in, and we are nearing lunchtime, I can see from the time, is how do we clarify between, and should we legislate that? Should we spell it out clearly in the guidelines? What constitutes bribery? What constitutes legitimate election expenses? Because right now, you look in plenty of one I'm all talk bribery na. The petitions na me yet I was actually taken to court for bribery. But mibla lo sipi kem also sanabi mol houseman ya. Minasawa yubla tu long NGI yubla make him. And you me all geda. So in the houseman, that's your campaign area. Huh? Na by only expecting you lo putim tea, coffee, sugar na. I am one kind na, you me all geda. Some hapon like him you kill him pig na. Also mibla lo sipi kem also to sem. You know nap kam golo place blow narpla man you must straight him road blow you. So by put him hand boy or some lab also call him also kupa you roll bruso. Desplaga na I'm custom kill him pigo. So you put him now to okay you send up antablo display na you talk. All right, antablo islands and you me looking more line him pig na. Katen Coca-Cola na all get something na. It's a whole different level to mibla lo nambis, but you know, should we prescribe that? Should we clearly define it so that, you know, everybody understands that, all right, suppose you walk him kaikai na, singotimol man kam na, you walk him campaign blow you, well, that's a campaign. You're not bribing people with, you know, wampla hap abus na, wampla kaukau, taro, or one something. So it's just something for the general public to think about because we want to eliminate, I suppose, all gray areas. So that whatever is prescribed for everybody. The limits are clearly set. That way, we can eliminate all of these court processes. You know, I mean, I went and gave campaign T-shirts in a particular place that I didn't campaign in. Although no, this little campaign T-shirt, and you bribe him man too. So, you know, those sorts of issues. And, you know, we want to be fair and even across the board. And if there is no clear prescription, then perhaps that leads to all kinds of suspicion, distrust. And then that is then translated through to the counting officials. You may all get that. You know, to me, it's not one thing that is ruining our elections. It's a whole collection of things that we need to address. Things like say Puka is talking about. I mean, I had to educate my voters because, you know, the issue came up in Parliament in the last term. Should we throw out the first past the limited preferential and go to first past the post? And some members were pushing for that. But then I asked my people in Isipik and they said no. People like him this blah, 1, 2, 3. And because it's working for us. And for us, you know, some people do spoil the votes. But it was interesting when I got a report from one of the academics and he said to me, we designed the LPV for one simple reason. Number one, tribal vote blow you. Give it to your tribe. Number two, you should give it to a party that you like. And number three, give it to the most popular candidate. So that was the way they designed it. But nobody told us that in the design of the LPV, it was done in such a way to cater for the different interests. So you marry, you start lo place, now you look at also tribal group blow you strong, okay, first vote blow you, give him go tribe. You still have a second and a third preference. So if you prefer a certain political party, then give him number two, you go long, candidate belong all. And if there's a very popular candidate in the electorate, then you give number three blow you. So in all instances, you are still voting for, you catering for all the different interests. But then as Puka said, a lot of people want to waste the twos and the threes. Maybe Papua New Guinea, we get smart and what's a good thing, we decide to ruin it. But these are the sorts of things that I think Mipla committee now, Mipla is sit down law. You may all get a lot of ting na talk na. We have a secretariat for those of you who are watching in from outside on the live stream. The addresses are there. For the academics, the candidates who took part in the elections, we've had a few come and speak to us. Please provide a written submission. We are very keen to provide some resolutions going forward for our people as a committee. Mila gave me Bladesla commitment. The Marape government is strongly behind the committee. Prime Minister himself is interested in the outcomes of this. As Puka said, he is personally pushing for direct election of the Prime Minister. We can't do that if the election process is still all over the place. So there are many things we have to fix. This is your opportunity as Papua New Guineans to be heard. And in saying that, this afternoon after lunch, we've got some of the community members, women's groups, youth groups from New Guinea Islands who will be participating in the afternoon session. Please have your say. These are the things we want you to think about. Chance pla yubla lo, tok come back lo, mipla, or representatives pla yubla. Yubla yat maki mipla. Mipla come na. Now mipla looks away also. This la something he got heavy long em na. Mipla like fix him. That's all. Mipla no like lo height na mipla yat fix him lo like lo mipla. I mean good pla. Mipla come out na yupla people li talking mipla stop finish long or line long southern region or line long highlands momase now mipla stop long NGI. So I'm opportunity blibla but you know finish yet. Or line long NRI stop. Please those of you who are here speak to them. Don't just speak to us members of parliament. Mipla yupla pay mipla lo tok tasol. Or line lo make him walk and molest stop backside. So utilize them, utilize we've got workers from the parliament, they are here as well. You can see them in their uniforms. Please utilize them while they are here. So with that, unless there are no further questions, all right, I want to thank our special autonomous region of Bougainville. Thank you for your fine example, I must say. And, you know, Papua New Guineans sitting everywhere, you know, Bougainville is showing us, you know, the way we should be conducting our elections. So I want to congratulate all of our people in Bougainville for the fine example that you are setting for the rest of us. Let me just say that. And our people of Manus, me losing Yubla last because I'm Yubla talk Pinisia, Wara himself low Kamgolo Yubla. I'm a little bit disappointed that some of your all process plana, all behavior, all people Manus go out lig. But these are things we can fix, and let me just say that it's really interesting to hear those perspectives, and certainly from you, provincial administrator. You, Blue Highlands, now you sit down in Manus, now you've watched the degeneration of the behavior of the people of Manus. And I think that's a strong disincentive there. Now you've all people of Manus, you've harim stop. I think, you need to pay a little bit more attention, and we take into account all of those recommendations from all of the different groups that have participated, particularly in how we can go about fixing the processes that lead up to the elections. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on prior to elections that we perhaps have not paid enough attention to in terms of the whole process of government. So we will certainly put the process into some kind of format that will compel public servants to take note and to ensure that there is sufficient funding, on-time funding, so that we can improve all of these processes going forward. With that, our time is now 12:12. I will suspend the hearings for lunch, and we will reconvene at 1:30 in this room. Thank you all very much.